Hello, welcome to episode 4 of the Self-Love Self-Care Diet Tips. I'm quite excited about this episode. It's a little bit different. And also, I didn't actually think there were any more tips to give. But now I'm under the impression if they come up and I feel that there's something that I need to share, then that is what I'm going to do. I'm going to bring them up for you. These diet tips are something that can help us and can also help us with habits that we maybe need to break, that we've kind of gotten into. Now, the first thing is remember what diet means. The original concept of what diet means. It comes from the word dieta, which is D-I-A-T-A, which is a Greek word, and it actually means way of life. So it's about having a healthy way of life, right? So that is what it really is. So today's diet tips are about our shoulds, our have-tos, our musts, our nagging of ourselves, and our routines. Now, these things are things that can put us into blocked spaces. They can put us in boxes. Now, of course, like with anything, having a routine seems like a really good thing, doesn't it? Or, I'm not a big fan of shoulding on ourselves because I don't think that kind of gives us the impetus or the hug and care and love that we really need, right? I think in some ways when we start to should, we become more resistant and actually we become a little bit toxic to our own ideas and thoughts, okay? So I'm going to go through this and kind of build it up and give you a little bit of a picture. So let's start with the first area in this diet tip section, okay? So the first thing is called shoulding, haves tos, musts, okay? These are things we tell ourselves we need to do, right? Now, the problem with shoulding on ourselves is that it causes anxiety, right? So if you're saying, well, I should do this, or oh my God, I need to do this, or I haven't done X, or I haven't done Y, and you start to force yourself to do things, what actually happens is you create a response that actually can be a little bit similar to the fight, flight, freeze response. You can possibly become agitated when we start to put deadlines and demands on ourselves. Sometimes what happens is that we become very, very, very locked into a kind of fear response. I'm not sure why that is, but the body recognizes it as an order, and the body doesn't like orders. It wants to come from that free, loving, flowing space, that more like the Tao way. You know the Tao, it's T-A-O, that sort of way of flowing. And if something isn't the correct way and you find resistance, that you pull back and you move again, you try again. If something doesn't happen simply, the Tao way says that it's not meant to be, so find another way. It doesn't mean don't do that thing, it just means find another way. Now, shoulds, have tos, and musts tend to create resistance points because the word should in itself is already a resistance point. The word must can also be a resistance point, and the have to is it psychs up energy centers within us that become a little bit resistant, as I say. Now, why this is because of childhood protection mechanisms. So in childhood, parents tend to use that kind of terminology. You should do this, you have to do this, you must get that done. And those words then become associated with a negative polarity as opposed to a positive polarity, okay? And the energy of those words is also quite negative. So how do we get around that? Because obviously it's all very well in me saying, we can't do shoulds, have tos, and musts, and we need to remove them from our way of life, okay, and our diet tip here, right? However, we need to obviously put in place something else. How do we navigate this? How do we navigate that there are things in life that need to happen? Okay, I like the word could. Could's beautiful because it doesn't imply you have to. Okay, because it's that have to word or you must. Could's beautiful because could says I could do this, and it gives you space. Did you feel that with could? Could's a pause word. It's a reflective word. It's a word that can help you to redefine and reanalyze what's going on so you can look into the aspect of what you want. So could is beautiful because it opens up that space. Another thing that you can use is I'd like to. I'd like to is very soft because it's a wishful sort of word, and it's beautiful, yet it doesn't push us. It doesn't push us into wanting to do something. And I dream of. A dream of is beautiful because I dream of means that you're opening the gate to the magic of life. And that means your beautiful diet, your way of life is going to be more profound. Now we move to routine. Now this is an interesting thing. Lots of people love routines, and I'm not advocating throwing your routine in the bin here. However, I'm going to ask you about your routines, right? Routines are really interesting because they can become an overeating thing, or I'm using that as symbolism, okay? They can become a noose around our neck. Why? Because we feel if we then don't do the thing that we have wronged ourselves, and then that leads to guilt and shame. And those two things are no good in self-love. They do not work if we have those things. So, okay, let's look at a routine, for example. Say your routine is to get up at 8 o'clock in the morning and then you go for a run. Okay, 8's kind of pushing it, maybe 7 in the morning. And then you go for a run and then you come home and you have your breakfast or you take your shower and then you maybe read a little bit of a book. If you're working, then you may just go straight to work. But say that is your routine, but maybe 1 day or 2 days or 3 days you find you just can't get up and you just can't go for that run. Now, what happens when your routine gets broken? This is where routines can be unhealthy as well as healthy. Aware of whether your routine is working for you or whether it's actually stifling you. Okay, now once upon a time, I was reading a magazine, and in the magazine, the lady in there, she was like a wellness coach, and she said, I always felt my routines were really important to me. And she had things like her yoga was on there, and she had things like her writing was on there. She liked to write, and she had on there, these were all things around her job, okay? So she had to have a routine outside of her job. And it also included when she cooked dinner, so everything was happening exactly to rote. When she got a little bit tired and when she fell off of this routine, she found herself falling into spaces of neglect. So she felt neglectful of those things. She didn't really voice it as in, like I said, shame or guilt, but what she said was she suddenly started to wonder whether these things were really helping her. And I could say the same thing. Like, I have my yoga, and you guys know I'm a yoga teacher, so one of my things in the morning is to get up and meditate and to do some yoga. It kind of fell a little bit by the wayside over the winter because I'd wake up and it was just too cold and I didn't want to do the yoga, because by the time the heating got up to the speed that I needed it at, I didn't feel comfortable. And doing yoga in a jumper and socks and stuff is really not great, I'm telling you that, okay? So this is to redefine, your routine. It's to redefine it. If you start to feel anywhere, remember this is a way of life, remember this is your diet, remember this is to protect you and help you to step into spaces of self-love, because it's not self-love if you're forcing yourself to do a routine that is starting to make you feel uncomfortable, unwell, tired, shameful or guilty. A small routine is great. I've got one in the evening. I have a routine. I do it every day pretty much. I literally make my dinner, I watch a show I like, and then I come up and I read something, and normally it pretty much moves me to bedtime. That's it. And maybe I'll have a hot chocolate. I love hot chocolates. I love chocolate, actually. And all what's chocolate. No, I'm kidding. But I do. I love chocolate. So, yeah, I love a hot chocolate. So that's kind of what I do. Sometimes I'll have a little biscuit, like a chocolate. So you can see, like, the theme of chocolate. So I do have them. Yet it's not anything that if I didn't do would make me feel sad. And it's not anything that if I didn't do it, that it would topple me in some senses, okay? Yet the thing with health goals and the thing with routine-driven health goals, routine-driven, say writing, if you like to write. I know why I'm using writing as an example, but there you go. Or I don't know, maybe you go like going out cycling on your bike every 2 weeks and you put it in your routine, but sometimes you just miss it. What you do find actually with routine, and this is an interesting one actually, is that if you have those kind of routines where there are long gaps between the routine, you can fall off them easily. And then the guilt's really heavy because you've only got, like, I don't know, you maybe only do it once a month. So then if you don't do it, you've just not done it, have you? And then a whole month goes by. So those ones are quite tricky. So I'm not, like I say, I'm not saying no routine. What I'm saying here is make your routine spaces tinier. So like my yoga in the morning is 20 minutes. So do a 20-minute set just to get myself grounded and centered and ready for my day. And sometimes I do like a 15-minute meditation, but I've even broken that up sometimes if I have had to. It's about being malleable and open and having space for the fact that we are human, and there's sometimes routines can actually stifle us rather than help us to move forward. Okay, so that's that thing. Now, then you get to the other side of the coin, right? And this is, what are you not doing? What are you not doing? What are you procrastinating on? Could the way of life diet of a routine actually help you if you're someone who doesn't have routines, right? Because some people don't like routines, some people love them, but they kind of never the twain shall meet. We've always got these wide, refined, far apart polarities. So this is to become a little bit more refined. We'll understand as I get towards the end of this. So this is like the third area. So we had, first area was shoulds, have tos and musts. Second area was routines. And the third area is not doing what you need to do and what you'd like to do, okay? Having procrastination, having no routine. You see, what often happens is those of us that have routine probably need to be a little bit more gentle to ourselves and have more open spaces, okay? That's the diet tip for you guys. Now, those of you who have no routine probably need to be a little bit more malleable and give yourself a small routine and start from there. Look, we all have one routine. We get up in the morning, we brush our teeth, we do these things regularly. Also, while I'm talking about routines, is that remember, if you do at least 21 days, you will be able to create a habit, okay? So maybe you want to go running, for example. So just do running. I'm a big fan of being less strict about when we do these things and to be a bit more open. Yet, like I say, if you're a non-routine based person, so you never get anything done, then you may need to be a little bit more like planning. You might need to plan it more, okay? Yet if you're someone who has routines that then starts to feel guilty, then you need to be more malleable and open, because guilt and shame around falling off a routine is not going to work for you, okay? It's just never going to work for you. It's going to make you feel really as if you're not doing so well. And the problem with that feeling is it's not self-love, and it's definitely not self-care. All right, just so you know, it really doesn't help you if you step into that. Okay, now here's a few questions around it so we can kind of wrap up the understanding of what we need to do here. Okay, first thing to check, if you have a routine, is it an emotional stuffer? What are you stuffing? What are you trying not to pay attention to? Many people get very, very busy when their minds are not trying or not wanting to deal with pain stories. Okay, many people do that. So if that is happening for you, then it might be time to let your routine go so you can have an emotional response that needs to be cleared from our system. Now, let me explain that to you before I move on. Now, if you've got a constant busy attitude, you're running around all the time, you have routines to keep you busy, you don't want to face up to your emotions, okay? That's no good. You see, what happens is when we don't face up to our emotions, we stuff them down. And what happens when and I know I've spoken about this a little bit before, but I really want to bring it up within this because it's so important. Now, if you're stuffing them down and not giving them attention, they can become illness later in your life. My advice and my love, and it's justified, you can do whatever you want, my darlings, whatever you want. However, if you can, allow that emotion to rise. Allow yourself to cry, to go through that grief process, and to let it go, whatever it is. Remove that routine for that point in time and allow it to happen, because it's important. Because otherwise, that stuffed emotion stays down, and then when the situation disappears that's making you upset, you leave it down there. That, my darlings, is no good, because what it is it's a suitcase or a box or whatever you want to define it as that you fill with all your sadness that then starts coming up to the surface, bubbling up and causing a lot of challenges in your life. So deal with them now, deal with them when they come up, and let them go quickly. So yes, let yourself cry if you have to. All right. So the other thing is if you lack emotional, if you lack a routine, that can also be an emotional stuff that if you don't want to ever commit to anything, that's a kind of lackadaisical sort of attitude. But that can also be something that you're stuffing down, that you're not facing up to. So do the same thing with that. Create a routine so that the emotion can come up and clear out of your system. This is so beautiful. It's such beautiful self-love and self-care stuff, and it really will benefit you. And it can change things at the blink of an eye. It can make your life become a little bit more refined and so much more joyful when you step into these. Of course, you're going to have the bit before the joy, which is the going through the emotions, feeling the grief, feeling the pain. But once you come out on the other side of it and you've dealt with it, you've removed it from your body, you're not holding on to it, it can't then later cause any problems within you, you'll feel so much better. Look, of course, I'm going to say this, and I really do want to say this, we're all human, and I have my issues too. Sometimes it's really hard to bring that stuff up and to heal it at base level, right? So I do get it. Yet what I would say is that to do it is such a good, it's kind of very clean living. It's a beautiful diet, actually, because it means that rather than holding on to problems, you're just facing them, dealing with them, facing them, dealing with them. Much simpler. And it really means that you're not carrying that baggage, you know, that rucksack or that big suitcase that you're filling, or that box. It means that you are a little bit more light. Yeah, you get it? Okay, so what to do? The major thing here, this is the big thing, that the overarching theme here, this is all about requiring balance. Okay, now remember, my balance won't necessarily be your balance and vice versa, because we're all individual consciousness making up a whole. So to be really relevant, we have to understand this. We have to understand what equals balance for us. Now, these diet tips are all very well and good, but you need to choose what works for you and step into what works for you. Yeah. Now, I said the word need there. And that can kind of sometimes also come into the shoulds, have do's and musts. However, this is about choice. This is about using your free will beautifully and effectively and making a really good choice so that you can fire on all cylinders throughout your life. And that, my darlings, could be nothing more than each of us want, because we all want to live in joy and peace consciousness, don't we? We just want to live in joy. So find the space that works really well for you, balance that out, get some equilibrium, and let those scales just sway softly in the breeze, but be pretty balanced, because you have found a way to guide yourself into deep love. If you haven't checked out my other self-love diet tip videos, do check them out. The first one's great. I love that first one because it really talks about things that affect our energy systems, and that one might really help you. If I can work out how to add it to here, I will do it. I'm not really sure if I can yet, but I will try. Please subscribe if you're interested. Anything self-love, angels, yoga. I will be bringing the yoga stuff out soon, very soon, and anything to do with healings and Dharma, because I'll be talking about stuff like that as well. Do subscribe. It'd be lovely to have you on board. I would love to have a community that I can share with like this. So, you know, I'm here to help. And if there's anything you want, let me know. Message me. I'm happy to answer questions and help you in any way that I can. So lovely. Do take care of yourself. Have a lovely week. I'm saying namaste to you. Take care and have a beautiful time. Kisses. Take care. Bye. Bye.